whistle. I can't whistle. It's too cold to whistle. It's way too cold to whistle. My lips aren't working. Anyways, hey everybody, hope you're doing well. We've had a fresh dump of snow here, so it's super chilly. My lips aren't working, can't whistle, but it's beautiful. The sun is out. My wife put some seed in the bird feeders, so they're back and trying to, oh, almost had it there. But yeah, so boat-wise, this week we're gonna jump inside the cockpit of the boat. I want to work in there because we're about 5 days out from painting the boat. Although it's dry, it still needs to cure a bit, so I just want to leave it alone. I think working in the cockpit is safe. We are going to concentrate on the fuel tank placement layout type. I want to go over that with you because once you know that, it was easier to decide what seats we're going to use. So I had a few options and I'm going to share that with you too. So I've had the shop warming up for a little bit. So I think we're ready to jump in and keep this ball rolling and get some work done. Let's go.
You're watching Rebuild Projects.
Let's cover that. Keep this covered. Well, so it is cold in here still. Now, outside is 22 and inside here is 27, 28. And I've had the heaters on going for about 45 minutes, but it is not doing much. If I had any advice to anybody who's building their garage or shop in a northern climate, and you think because you're building it in the summertime, you can just insulate the walls like I did. I just shoved a bunch of rock salt, nice thick walls, but September came and I didn't do the joists. I didn't do the ceiling, the roof, and I wish I had, because basically what's happening now is I turn these heaters on and it heats up to about here and everything rises and gets lost out the ceiling. So yeah, anyways, I've had to turn the heaters off too because I found through making these videos that if I don't, it sounds like absolute crap. And my videos need as much help as I can get, so we're going to keep the crap factor to a minimum and keep them off for a little bit. You know, I can turn it back on, do a little montage, a little voiceover, whatever. You don't care. That being said, we are going to get into the cockpit like I talked about outside, and we are going to talk about the fuel system. And if you stick with me throughout my jibber-jabbing, we will talk about my unique, one-of-a-kind, special take on boat seats. Well worth sticking through. And then, you know, we might just get some work done if I can turn these heaters back on. I was intending to do some fiberglassing today. We will see if it will warm up enough for that. And yeah, who knows? Let's get to it. Let's talk cockpit. Oh, old man. Oh. That was sad. Old man. Old man, look at your life. I'm a lot like you were. That's for you, Dad. You know what I'm talking about. We're not good with ladders, are we? Ow. There's that bolt right there. Oh, fuck. Well, decisions. With a small little boat like this that keeps growing, I mean, the bow grew taller, the transom grew longer, the sides grew up higher. The one thing that didn't grow was the cockpit. It has got smaller. So we're talking 59 inches, so just under 5 feet by 80 inches, which is about 6'8". So the decisions you have to make in a small space, eh? So with this kind of area, the floor plan, the layout, I'm taking into consideration my desire to make it a really efficient, nice fishing boat and my need for seating for the family. Family boat, fishing boat. Can they both work together? Can I find a nice compromise? And I think that's what I've been playing with for the last little bit. So let me run it by you. Before I could make any decision, I had to figure out the placement and the layout of the fuel tanks, because we're doing the dual outboard setup to begin with, the dual 60s. So I needed to find a solution to give each outboard its own fuel tank. I think that's smart. Historically, I've always had a fuel tank that went underneath in this area and here. The old splash wheel of the boat started right here. I don't know if you can see the shadow line, but that's where it used to go. So actually the boat, these two utility boxes that I built actually are about 8 inches back from where the old splash wheel started. So we've gained a little more room this way, but we've lost space, covered space. Now I had a 10-gallon red portable tank there and another one over here, and those suited me fine for a long time. But if you've ever had one of those, you don't really like the way you have to fill them, carry them in, or the way they're vented. Sometimes the little vents on them, the older they get, kind of go, and then you have issues with, your outboard drawing fuel. Or in this case, we had a 150 Black Max 2-stroke that just loved gas, and it was, we had to mix our own oil, gas. Anyways, so that's why we had two. It would just suck the gas. And then you'd have to get down there and you'd have to switch it over and whatnot. So I kind of want to get away from that. So option 1, portable red gas tanks, not my favorite. Option 2, I looked at getting some aluminum gas tanks built. Now they could come out further because eventually the seating option here will be dictated by how far out the gas tanks stuck out. But as it sits, we have 14 inches deep by 14 inches tall, and this is 21, 22, and I really wanted to stop them before this little bilge area. So this little 14 by 14 by 8 inch deep bilge, all the water is going to channel back here and get pumped out with a bilge pump, and I want to keep that accessibility there to be able to check on it, change a pump if I have to, whatever I need. So I really want the tanks to stop here and stop here. And after pricing out aluminum tanks, custom built, all the venting, the pickups, the fill spouts, the senders, everything you need to put into it, they were climbing and climbing. I had one quote for about $500, and I thought that was reasonable, but the lead time on that was months and months away. I had another guy wanted like almost $1,000 each. So that is not in the cards. So option 2, aluminum tanks, not really in the cards. So then I kind of was stumped. I thought, maybe do I build something out of fiberglass, but no, I gotta know when to stop. I started looking at a marketplace and seeing if there was something that I could just fit in there, maybe a bigger tank, and then maybe cut out this bilge a bit more. But what I ended up finding was an interesting little find here. So I ended up finding this guy. This is called a permanent gas tank, and it's by a company called Moeller, M-O-E-L-L-E-R, and they make these gas tanks that fit under the sole of your boat. So they usually get covered over with some sort of access hatch, but they're roto-molded, kind of like your coolers, and they've got little spots for straps, and they come with a vent pipe, a fill pipe, your pickup, and in this case it has a sender, a bob sender that goes to your gauge. So it all came with this unit. Now I got this for a steal. The person who had it just let it go, and it's old new, so it still has all the orange caps on it, so it's never been used, and I got it for less than $100. And I'll tell you that's a steal because, well, let me put this in place first. So it's going to live right here underneath. And it was a steal because I've been searching for a second one of these. I've searched absolutely everywhere, I think across all the USA, into Canada. And, without buying one retail, so Moeller and another company called Scepter, I think it's called, are owned by a parent company called Ameritank. And they're made out of Tennessee or something like that. Long story short, they have a monopoly on these things, and that little tank that's 18 by 18 by 13, believe it or not, is worth about $500 or $600 depending where you live. And to get one shipped, they're usually in Florida, you get your best deals, but to get one shipped across to the Pacific Northwest here, we're talking, $600 or $700 with shipping for one little tank. Retail. So I'm searching still. And when I find its twin, it's going to live here. And then each of them are going to feed one of the outboards. And I think that's a smart thing to do. It just keeps things simple when you're trying to track down a fuel problem. Anyways, so now that I know that I'm going to have a fuel tank here and one here, we're going to have the bilge pump here, probably a battery on this side inside the utility box and another one on this side for this outboard, then I can start planning the seating. So we have options for the back here. At first, I think my first option is a bench seat, and we'll get into that in a second. But before we do any of that, let's talk about the captain seat. Now, when it came to budget-conscious options for captain seats, I thought I hit the jackpot. And I'm kind of laughing because I found this boat seat, this captain's chair, and I was over the moon. It came with the base, and I was going to make this fiberglass pedestal that I was going to fiberglass into the sole. And I had come up with this early on. If you ever look at some of the 3D SketchUp drawings I did at the very beginning, this seat was always in there. But I bought it, I put it on a shelf, and until recently, I never actually really sat on it. Not sat on it like you would when you're going to sit in your boat. But now that we've got to the stage, I put it on the pedestal, I had it there, and I sat on it. And for God's sake, I don't know if it probably won't pick it up, but when you sit on this thing, it's like a frickin' whoopee cushion. So it has air holes in the bottom. I don't know what it does. I don't know if it's my big old fat butt, but when I sit on it, it just expels air, and then at the very end goes, so it's kind of like, and then when you get off of it, it goes every single time. I can't use it. I can't, sit on the seat every time I go out and just feel like I'm a joke. Feel like I'm some sort of clown farting my way around the marina. Can't do it. So that was an option that just hurt a little bit. And then I started, this is just in the last week, I started looking around going, well, what can I do for a captain's chair or even a co-pilot's chair? And then I didn't have to look far because I had this, and this is a bomber seat. I actually have a couple of these. I was intending for a hot rod project one day, and I thought, oh, how cool would this be? Imagine this as my captain's chair and maybe a co-pilot's chair, or maybe pick up another one or two and have them back here. How kind of retro inspired, and I got a lot of like aluminum and chrome on the boat, so I thought, yeah, I could polish these up. But when you get past the romance of it and the aesthetics, you realize to really make it work, you're going to have to weld a 1/4 inch thick piece of aluminum to make it more sturdy. It's quite thin, and then even if you do that, when I actually did sit in it, I realized once again, my big old butt literally just stuck in there. So the seat pan's a little too tight. It just seemed like a lot of work. And once again, you know, I'm trying to get this boat in the water. So option 2, bomber seat, not really gonna work. With the first seat not working out, and then the bomber seat not really even being an option with how much work it was, I have to get creative with my seat choice. And well, let me tell you a story. So I've been recently at the boat show this year, and I got to sit in a lot of those aluminum big well-built aluminum boats. The interiors are usually fitted out so well. And a theme in the 4 or 5 boats that I went into were these really cool captain's chairs, all made by a company called Shockwave. Different variations, but all really kind of well-built seats. Their big claim to fame is that they have these suspension modules. So it's basically a pedestal, a base that has a shock in it, and then as you're, you know, riding down the ocean, your seat is taking a lot of the shock from, you know, all the waves breaking and whatnot. It's kind of like having mountain bike suspension on the back of your bike. Integrated into a really awesome CNC cut bracketry is one of those little shocks in the base. So you can get them in different configurations, and what I mean by that is I think the suspension module is called a Sentinel, and that's pretty common. But the seats, there's a Commander seat and a few other different models you can get. Now, they're beautiful and so comfortable, but they're kind of made of unobtainium, because when I got back and started looking at the prices online, I realized, yeah, sure, you can buy the whole seat and maybe you get a little bit of a discount, but usually they want you to buy it in whatever split configuration. So the suspension Sentinel module runs about $1,200. And then the seat, the one that I sat in, was called the Commander, and that was about $2,200. So all in, you know, you're looking at, you know, $3,500 plus tax plus shipping. So you're between $3,000 and $5,000 in one of these seats, which is just, well, it's a shockwave. It's a shocking shockwave when you see the price, but very well worth it if you can afford it. And when you're buying one of those really big, beautiful 100,000 plus stickered boats, you know, you expect a seat that is going to be very comfortable. But this is a tractor seat from my local farm equipment store down the road, and it comes with a suspension module. There's no shock in there, but it's some sort of springs and a tension, a little knob here. It does have a suspension module in this seat. It's made of the finest premium vinyl. Supposedly, this will last outdoors and indoors, so we are going to find out. It's got this little button where you can lower and raise the seat back here, which is a nice little feature. It's got a headrest that's adjustable. It's black, just like the Commander seat. And one thing that it has that the Commander doesn't is a safety feature. It's got a seatbelt. So, and another thing that this has that the Commander doesn't have, the Shockwave, is the shocking sticker price. I paid $250 for this. The money that I have saved from buying this seat, I could buy 2 or 3 of these seats throughout the lifespan of this boat. But I'm also going to save the money and buy a locking swivel to put it on whatever base that I'm going to build. So this will live about here, I need some room for my feet, and my feet are 13, so I'm probably going to get about 16 inches from the helm. And then this is a 24 by 24, so altogether we're going to be probably to the back of the seat at between 36 and 40 inches from the helm here. But that allows me to build a 20 by 20 inch fiberglass box. It'll be 3-sided with an open back, and I can store stuff under there. So whether it's tackle or tackle boxes or maybe an extra fuel container, that'll live under there. But this is the option. Tell me what you think. It's unique, and only time will tell if it'll last. I do actually have a cover for it that's waterproof, so that will get put on when I'm not using it, and we will have the hardtop too. So bear with me, because as I was searching online for a solution that would give me more space back here, and something that would, fit, I was looking online for, used bench seats, stuff that was already upholstered, and you could find stuff, but it just wasn't going to fit, or it was too long and I'd have to cut it down. I came across kind of a wacky idea, and the price was right, so I picked them up. So what am I talking about? I ended up picking up 4 of these guys. So they're seats from a bus, like a transit bus, and you usually find them at the front of the bus where the handicap section is, and they lock, although this one needs a little work. They all need a little work, but basically they lock when you pull the handle up, and they come down. They have a strut that usually goes in, so I'm gonna have to pick one of those up, but they're kind of like jump seats, so you'll be able to fold them up, and I can gain that space back for fishing, and then they'll fold down, and they're super well built. They're like anodized aluminum, stainless steel, and yeah, of course I have to, build some cushions myself, but I think that's the lesser of evils, instead of having to, build out a bench seat, get it upholstered, fiberglass in, some cleats on the side and supports, when all I have to do is take, 2 of these guys, and really I just have to use the screw holes that they have already. Once I put a little bit of love into them, I'll be able to then, create a little ledge that will also act as a cover for the fuel tanks, but then bolt them, maybe with a little bit of a spacer, to these back boxes, and bada bing, bada boom, we have 2 jump seats that can fold up. And I even came up, because I bought 4 of them, and they were only $25 each. So I really, I took a punt. And I came up with the idea of taking a 3rd one. I actually have 1 more. Let's just call it for spare parts. But I took a 4th one, and I put a hinge on it, and that is going to be my co-pilot seat. So for this boat, the port side hull wall has always been, more of the utilitarian side. We have this cutout, which is going to house the capstan motor. It's going to have an access panel on top of it. The capstan, top will sit here through this little hole, and that's going to aid the anchor system. But the intention has always been to also integrate it into some sort of prawn puller that I'm going to build. So in my mind, I'm going to bend and build something out of some aluminum tube. And originally, my thought was to bolt it to some Kuza board that we had underneath here. So when I built the hull sides, I doubled up some 3/4 inch Kuza board. So I think it's about 18 inches wide. It goes all the way to the floor and up to here, so like 39 inches tall. And that is behind the fiberglass layer that is the top or the front of it. So it's really well built, and it's in there. Now, originally I was just going to bolt that straight into the Cusa board. But since then, I came up with the idea of taking this heavy-duty stainless steel hinge and bolting that to the Cusa. I took a stainless steel piece of rod, bent it as a pin that can be removed, and then I've taken the other side of the hinge and bolted it to the jump seat. The neat thing about the pin is that I can remove it, and because I have more than one of these hinges, I can use the other side of another hinge and bolt it eventually to the prawn pillar and take the seat out and bolt that on, and then I've got a removable prawn puller. But most of the time, it's just going to be this jump seat that'll live here. I'm going to get a toggle latch so it'll sit nicely secure onto the side of the hull. But this is going to be wonderful. It's going to be absolutely awesome to be able to sit here with the other two jump seats. I'm probably going to build some sort of table that'll either slot in with a leg or something. But then the captain's seat we're going to put on a swivel, and just kind of like if you were in some sort of RV life, you'll all be able to sit and eat and chat right here. But most importantly, when the time comes, you got a co-pilot seat. You'll be able just to sit here and concentrate on giving directions. So yeah, I'm 230 pounds, so this seat right now will be able to hold me. I think I'm going to get a fairly thick piece of stainless steel and bolt it to the back just to give it a little more torsional rigidity. But yeah, I think this is just going to be absolutely wonderful. I think it's going to be, I lucked out. It's going to be a pretty cool solution that'll allow more space for fishing. It'll also give good access to the cuddy cabin, and you won't be tripping over a seat that would be permanently placed. I think it's, win-win-win. Whew, it is still so cold in here. I keep turning the heat on and off to talk to you guys. Just not working out for me. My plans, I wanted to build this, pedestal box for the new suspension seat, and I was going to use the old pedestal idea. So this is this is the top of one of these two utility boxes that I turned into the back of the Euro transom. You can see how thick those are. They're 3/8, quarter of an inch, half an inch. They're thick, and I like the design of them. They're already pretty much done for you. So, of course, there was two boxes, two of these. I'm going to be taking off the old pedestal of the white chair, and I wanted to be able to combine them by fiberglassing them together. And this one's got to get cut down to the same angle as that one, but this is going to be the 22 by 16 base for that new seat. Of course, originally I was going to fiberglass it into the actual sole, but I think I'm going to just glue in with some thickened epoxy, some composite or Cusa board cleats, and then these can sleeve over top of that and get screwed into the cleats from the side, so it's removable. But once this is done, combined, faired, gel coated, also going to cut out the back so it can be that storage. That was my project. It's not going to happen. It's just too cold. It's just too cold. So I'm going to switch gears and move over to the outboards. I have almost enough done on that one outboard to make a video, get it started for you. So I don't mind working in the cold when it comes to outboards, so we're going to switch over to that. But as I'm thinking about the outboards, I thought, my mind's always going how I'm going to mount them, and then I forgot to share with you guys, right before we sprayed the boat, I cut open these two holes. Now, if you go back to episodes 2 or 3, the transom extension that I did is a little unique. Like everything on the boat, it's my own take on things. We have a very, very, very strong, dry original transom. It's like 1.5 inch thick, doubled up 3/4 inch marine ply. Then it's got like almost 1/4 inch glass on the outside. And then all of the tie-ins to the stringers and to the sides were super strong, no rot. So it just seemed like going back a few steps to cut it all out. Because normally you would cut out an old transom when you're doing an extension like this, and you'd run stringers either scabbed or tied into the old stringers right through to the new transom, and that carries all your weight for your outboards, right? Gives you like a backbone. But instead of doing that, if you go back to episode 2 or 3, I put an aluminum bracket bolted on, sits right in the middle, and then that gets bolted to my new transom, which is, 2.25 inch thick composite board, so super beefy, tied into the wings, tied into everything. This deck that we put on is super thick, and that gets tied into the new transom to make this kind of watertight pod. But in order to, look into it, inspect it, do some work to whatever outboard setup we're going to do, I needed to get access. I can't get access in the middle because of the bracket or in the back. So basically I cut these holes and I'm putting these guys. So these are aluminum hatches? No. Aluminum doors, little ports. Looks like a port. Aluminum access ports, inspection ports, and they're cool. They're super beefy and thick, 8 inches, so I can get my arm in there. 9.5 to the outside, so it's got a good lip. And when you put the lid on, it's fully gasketed all the way around, so it's supposed to fit on nice and tight. And then you use this locking mechanism. You can tighten that little nut up to make it really suck in, and this clicks down and you've got a watertight door there, port. Anyways, we're going to Sikaflex it, bolt it through so that this whole area here becomes that watertight pod. Now, I don't think that it's actually going to do anything for the buoyancy, because this is a planing hull, so I understand that. It may slightly offset a little bit of the weight for whatever configuration of outboards we have. And of course, ideally, one day I'd like to have like a 150-200 right in the middle. But until then, we got the 260s coming, and it should offset a little bit of weight, but not much. I think for me, the most important factor is that I'm tried to make this Boston Whaler-esque-ish. So what I mean by that is with these watertight, it creates kind of an added buoyancy in case of an emergency. That combined with the foam-filled hull sides and the extra foam that we put underneath the sole, all watertight. If this ever did capsize, it should float on the surface, and then you could get on the hull to save yourself instead of, sinking to the bottom. I mean, hopefully I'll never find that out, but that's what this is all about for me, more about safety than anything else. So we got to get that outboard going. I want to put this video out showing you what I've done with the outboards. So we're going to change gears for that. And if you've stuck with me to the end here, I really appreciate it. I keep saying to myself, sometimes maybe it's the ideas that I share with you that are as important as the work. I do love sharing the work. But in this case, some of my wacky, crazy ideas might have inspired you, hopefully. And if not, I'm just putting these out to share my journey. It's the journey of a 16-foot runabout lake boat getting turned into this 19.5-foot fishing machine. And yeah, I just like sharing it. So thank you once again. Tune in for the next episode, which is going to be an exciting outboard episode. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps me out. So I can't wait to see you next episode at Rebuild Projects.